Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Oulton Park for the final race of the weekend and the final Ginetta action on this Easter Bank Holiday Monday. It is the third race of the weekend for the Ginetta GT Academy. It's been a busy weekend for Ginetta with a total of 9 races here on their debut with the British GT race package, and they've saved one of the best till last, the GT Academy, which provided 2 good races already this weekend. In particular, their race earlier on today that saw Ravi Ramyi bounce back from a disappointing race on Saturday afternoon to claim the victory from Nick White with a terrific battle that they had upon the resumption of the race after an early safety car. And well, let's hope we don't have any more of the safety cars in this one, but let's hope we do have a repeat of the scrap between those two. Every chance that we will, because they're going to be sharing the front row because the grid for this third race is based upon the race 2 results. So Ravi Ramyi, the winner, will start alongside Nick White. It's White who has the early points advantage, though. He won on Saturday, and of course second place in the race earlier on today means that he's had a slightly more consistent weekend than Ravi Ramyi has. And so with a win and a 5th place for Ravi, that will put Nick White fractionally ahead. 3rd place in the race earlier on today was James Taylor, and he had a reasonably easy time of it actually. Thomas Shelley likewise in 4th. Mackenzie Walker was in the thick of the action though in what was an action-packed race. They always are in Ginetta GT Academy, these Ginetta G56s that run on Michelin road tyres, carrying the Ford V6 engine. That is on board these G56 as opposed to the V8 that we see in the Ginetta GT Championship. 270 brake horsepower, top speed of about 140 miles an hour, not very heavy at all, no driver aids. Oh, and we've still got a damp and slippery racetrack. It's never really fully dried out all day, because every time we get close to it drying out, the rain seems to make a return. So the skies are looking clearer now than they have for a while, although as I turn to the direction from which the weather is coming, I might feel the need to revise that statement. So let's not talk about the weather for the time being, and instead follow the cars as they make their way around on their green flag lap before a 20-minute race. They'll get the full 20 minutes hopefully this time, after their earlier race was shortened due to some earlier delays. And the fact that they had to have 2 green flag laps, something that they shouldn't need this time around. So Ravi Ramyi then will start from the front. We've got the rookie class as well, which has seen Matt Shaw take both of the class victories. He'll be looking for the triple in this one. Ramyi and White then make up the front row of the grid. 2 pace setters really this weekend. James Taylor and Thomas Shelley set to do battle from the second row of the grid, and then row number 3 for Mackenzie Walker and the double rookie class winner Matt Shaw, looking maybe to get onto the podium for the first time outright this afternoon. Mark Elman and Richard Just are next. Richard, the nearest rival to Matt Shaw in the rookie category. The top 10 completed by John Kearney and by Amy Tomlinson, who was the only one of the 3 Tomlinsons not to go off the track, at least that we saw in the race earlier on today. Inside that top 10, Ed Akers. Now Ed definitely one to watch for, the orange number 20 car. He went off in the early stages of the previous race today and only managed to recover to 11th because of the safety car. He's got Charlotte Lowe for company on row 6, another rookie driver. Lucy Tomlinson and Phil McGarty will share the 7th row of the grid, and at the back will be Emma Tomlinson. Lucy and Emma both found themselves at various points off the track earlier on today. Emma not able to rejoin, whilst Lucy did manage to finish in 13th position. So a couple of storylines to follow here. Ed Akers, an interesting one, because I do think he's got podium pace, actually. He was 2nd in Saturday's race, which you could argue should have been 3rd because Ravi Ramyi had been off and fell down into 5th position. But still, Ed has the potential for a podium and will be coming through from 11th on the grid. And in these now slightly more pleasant conditions, at least on the line anyway, it's pretty dry, Ed will be hoping that he can keep it between the white lines and show us exactly what he can do. He's always an exciting driver to watch. Very often we seem to be talking about Ed Akers bouncing back from something, and whilst that's not ideal for him, it means we've always got something to get excited about in these Ginetta GT Academy races, because he's a good overtaker, he's a good racer, and he's easy to spot as well in the pack in his bright orange number 20 machine. From the front though, Ravi Ramyi, the blue, green and white car that lines up on the inside of row 1. Now, as we've seen on that green flag lap, there is a very definite dry line. The racing line is dry around 90% of the circuit. Offline, though, still very damp. And bear in mind, these cars are not always the easiest to launch off the line. It looks as though the right-hand side of the track is the drier. You can sort of see it from that angle, whereas Nick White, starting on the other side, has the wetter side of the road. Will that influence what happens at the start? Well, let's find out. Looks like it might do, because Ramy's made a much better start there than Nick White did. White will hold on to second place, though, side by side for third, as Mackenzie Walker comes through from the third row of the grid to claim third place ahead of James Taylor, turning into Old Hall Corner. On board now with Thomas Shelley as he makes his way down the avenue for the first time and into the right-hand kicker Denton's. Hard on the brakes now for Cascades. Cold tyres, they all run on road tyres, so they're not quite as lethal as slicks are on the opening lap. The car still sliding around, not really giving the drivers as much grip as they might like. Progress of Ed Akers, well, he's already inside the top 10, I think, as they head towards Isle of Bend, where Thomas Shelley continues to put the pressure on the cars in front. Flings it into the shell hairpin. There is Akers, the orange car, in behind number 25, John Kearney. And John Kearney got himself in trouble for a false start penalty in race number 2, 10 seconds dropping him further off the back of the field. But Ed Akers not actually making as much progress as I thought. He is in the top 10, but only 9th place at the moment. Top 3 making a break. Mackenzie Walker going with the top 2 in the early stages of this one. They drop down the hill onto the brakes at the Hislop chicane, and Mackenzie Walker maybe now sensing an opportunity to have a go at Matt Shaw, the novice cross on the back of Matt's car, who had a change further back. Akers has got himself ahead of John Kearney. So the Dayglow yellow car dropping a position. He's now got Mark Ellman behind, and Ellman started ahead of both of them, so Mark's not had an ideal opening lap of the race. Towards Druids they go. Akers now moving up to challenge Richard Just, who is the second of the rookie drivers right now. A class still led by Matt Shaw in 5th place. Akers looking to the inside towards Lodge Corner now. That's definitely the wet side of the road. Someone is off at Lodge, and it's one of the leaders. Who is it? It is Mackenzie Walker. Mackenzie Walker from 2nd place off the road at Lodge Corner, and that car is beached. So Mackenzie Walker going no further. Yellow flags will be out at Lodge for the next lap or so, but it's in a very similar position to a few other cars that have found themselves in the Lodge gravel trap over the weekend, and the precedent has not necessarily been to throw a safety car, so hopefully we can stay green. So Ramy leads then with White back into 2nd now. 3rd place for James Taylor. Matt Shaw now back into 4th position. And then the driver we ride on board with, Thomas Shelley, 4th in class, but 5th overall. And they do score points towards the same championships as well. So there is a rookie class, but the rookies can still score points overall. And we are going to go safety car, just to prove me wrong. So yellow flags and safety car boards are out. And this, no doubt, is as a result of the Mackenzie Walker car that's off at Lodge. So Mackenzie's had a bit of an up and down weekend, really. Didn't finish race 1, but came through in 5th in the 2nd race. And now another non-finish for Mackenzie, who at least has escaped unscathed from this one. Him and the car didn't make contact with anything, just skated off into the gravel trap. So the Ginetta G56 safety car awaits the arrival of the pack, which had not long gone through, of course, when the safety car was scrambled. So it might be a long wait for the safety car driver until they get back around to them. Ramy, White, Taylor, Shaw and Shelley the top 5. Ed Akers then 6th. So Akers did start to make some good progress there, didn't he? In the first lap and a half, he's managed to come through from 11th to 6th position. And the safety car will now allow him to close in nicely on the group ahead, because he was 2 seconds behind the Taylor, Shaw, Shelley battle. So Ed Akers, one of the few people, I suspect, happy to see a safety car called in the early stages. So as the cars come across the line, we can take a look back at the start of the race. Someone making a really good start from the back there. That might have been Phil McGarty, and a little bit of contact. Maybe it was McGarty who shot up the middle. Great start by Ramyed from pole, and Mackenzie Walker, as short as his race was, it was pretty impressive, coming from 5th to 3rd into turn 1. Slow starter ahead of him was Thomas Shelley, who dropped in behind not only him but also Matt Shaw. Cleanly through the first corner, but wait for Mackenzie Walker. There he is, off very early, and I would imagine he snatched a break on a damp bit of racetrack because, as I've been saying all day, that final sector through Druids and Lodge is the part of the track that takes the longest to dry, and perhaps touched the white line as well, which would not have helped his cause. So he skitters off into the gravel trap. And I can see out of the window that we don't yet have a recovery vehicle on site at Lodge, so it's going to be probably 2 laps at least behind the safety car, which is a shame. Goes Mark Ellman, who is running 9th at the moment, started 7th, did Mark. As this 3rd season of the Ginetta GT Academy gets underway here at Oulton Park. Toby Trice and Mark Warren are 2 former champions. Toby Trice, of course, going on to race in Porsches once he'd wrapped up the inaugural GT Academy Championship. Angus Whiteside and Ravi Ramid have been your rookie champions, and join the long list of, a very prestigious list it is, of Ginetta champions over the years, who will add their name to that list at the end of 2023. Well, Ravi Ramid and Nick White certainly setting their stall out early. Ramid arguably has been the quicker of the 2 here at Oulton Park, I would argue. But Nick White, if he can be a bit more consistent than Ravi, then you'd have to say that would give him the edge in the championship. Consistency is, as they say, what wins you championships. And you can have more race wins than anyone else, but if you're not finishing lots of races, then that ultimately does more damage than the wins do you good. So Ramid has finished both of the races this weekend, but I think will admit himself he probably should have scored a few more points so far. Through Lodge comes Thomas Shelley. Even under the safety car, there are things to be done behind the wheel. Got to try and keep the heat in the tyres. Try and scope out the conditions as well, see if they're evolving at all. And just think about how you're going to go about this race restart that's coming up. There's Ed Akers coming down towards us. And behind him, the number 25 of John Kearney. He's having a better race this time, that is for sure. That 10-second penalty in the earlier race dropped him a number of places, actually, because it was quite close in the midfield. He, I think, came across the line 5th, did John. 10 seconds added on to his time for a false start meant that he finished a lot further back than that. Still inside the top 10, but 9th overall, 7th of the GTA class. There is Mackenzie Walker's car out of the gravel trap. It's bringing most of the gravel with it onto the racing line as well. Now that will be well in the pit lane by the time the field get back around to us this time. So we should be able to hopefully see the lights extinguished on top of the safety car in the near future, and that will leave us with probably just over 10 minutes of racing to go. So Nick White has plenty of time to put the pressure on Ramy. Look at the front of Nick White's car there, the 2nd place car with a grill full of grass. Now, that may have been kicked up by another car. There's only one other car that could have kicked it up, I suppose, Ravi Ramid, but has Nick White been off to pick that grass up? It's a cold enough day that I doubt the car will have any danger of overheating, but can you see in the grill, he's definitely picked up a bit of the Oulton Park greenery. It's perhaps not quite as bad as it first looked, but I wonder whether he had a grassy excursion somewhere on that first lap that we didn't spot. Could have been kicked up, I guess, by Mackenzie Walker as he slid off the road, but yeah, luckily I think the majority of that grill is still clear, so Nick White should be okay. The lights indeed do now go off on the safety car. Ravi Ramid becomes the pace car, essentially, and it's now down to him when he accelerates and gets the race back underway. Seen a few safety car restarts today and a variety of strategies when it comes to when to go. Some have gone early, some have left it till the very last minute. I think going early is not always a bad shout. perhaps try and surprise some people, but Ramid still hasn't gone. He's still weaving, he's going slowly. Nick White is not weaving, he's ready to go as soon as Ramid steps on it, which he does now. And Ravi Ramid buys himself a couple of Ginetta lengths maybe over Nick White, but not a huge advantage as they come out of Lodge Corner, down the dip, burst over the hill at Deer Leap, and with just over half the race to go, we are back under racing conditions here at Oulton Park. Ravi Ramid leads the way, Nick White second, but keep an eye to Ed Akers, already into the top 6 from the 6th row of the grid, and he is really hounding now Thomas Shelley, almost pushing him through Old Hall Corner and looking to try and get the run down the avenue and maybe have a stab into Cascades. Very risky place to try and move, especially when the inside line is damp, which it is. So Akers thinks better of it for now. Head down the lakeside straight, still single file. Top 2 making a break. Taylor in third, looking to repeat his podiums from the earlier 2 races, although he'll be a bit fed up, I suspect, with finishing third. He's third in both of the other races. He's running third now, although he might have a bit of excitement coming his way if Ed Akers can make much more progress into the Britain chicane. Notice how they don't take quite as much curb as the GT5 cars have been able to do, or the G40 Ginetta, I should say, across the GT5 Challenge and the Ginetta Juniors, who have all 4 wheels in the air at that part of the track. The 56s you have to be a bit more gentle with. On the brakes, down the gearbox and over the curbs through the Hislop chicane. See how people have been dipping into the grass over the course of the day down there, dragging bits of earth onto the track, which the marshals do their best to clear between races, only to then have it dug straight back up again. Nick White living with Ravi Ramid for now, isn't he? In fact, he's closed in fractionally through the second half of this lap, and White is up for the fight then now. It's hard to tell in the previous race whether Ravi's pace advantage was because he was genuinely quicker or just because of the conditions favouring him more. Dips a wheel on the damp side of the road there. Meanwhile, for third, there is contact and off he's going to go. Oh, well, 2 places gained for Shelley. Around goes the 33 car of Shaw as he tried to get to the outside of Taylor. There was a bit of a squeeze. They both ran wide, and Thomas Shelley was in the pound seat. He is into third, and I reckon Akers came through with him. Yes, he did. Ed Akers into 4th place now as they go into Old Hall Corner. So there are the top 2. It's a big gap back now to the 3rd place squabble that all got a little bit out of hand that time at Lodge. I think we've had another spinner at Lodge just now too. That looks to have been the number 30. Oh, that's Matt Shaw recovering. Here he goes, look, he went to the outside. Oh, and I think they just sort of both merged in the middle, didn't they, really? One zigged, the other zagged, and Thomas Shelley, rubbing his hands with glee, moved through into 3rd place. Here's the outside look again, Shaw to the outside. He gets a bit sideways, I think, on the damp patch, and gets into the back, or the side of Taylor's car, and then rotates fully as he gets into the corner. So, bit of a clumsy moment there. That's unfortunate, though, for Matt Shaw, who will lose now the rookie class lead as well to Richard Just. And it means this is now the fight for third. So Ed Akers is definitely in contention for a podium now. Fastest lap, by the way, belongs to Nick White, a 153.221. He was 2.5 tenths quicker than Ramid on the previous lap, the first full flying lap of the race. But I'd be intrigued to see what pace the number 20 car has got, if it could break through into clean air. Right now, though, Thomas Shelley is very much standing in his way. And Thomas Shelley, who had a 7th place on Saturday and a 4th earlier on today, has been getting steadily better as the weekend goes on, and now senses a chance for a podium finish. Just leading in the rookies, and actually Amy Tomlinson now moves into 2nd place because Shaw rejoined right at the back of the field. He had let everyone go through before he was able to get going again. There is Richard Just leading that class. He's got Mark Ellman behind him, but that is not another rookie driver. That is a GTA class driver. So he could afford to let him through and still retain the class lead. But like I said, they all score points towards the outright championship, so every position is worth fighting for. None more so than 1st position, where Nick White is definitely putting up a fight. Another new fastest lap, less than a 10th quicker than the leader that time. But in fairness, he can't go much quicker without actually getting alongside Ramid. White running wide out of Cascades there. Just dropped back a car length or so, and it was actually a purple 1st sector for Ravi. So he's responding now. It took about 3 tenths, almost exactly 3 tenths out of his pursuer. So Nick White just needs to regroup a bit after that moment at Cascades Corner. And for 3rd place, oh, big lock up there. That was James Taylor. James Taylor who has not given up his chances of a podium either. Closing in on the Ed Akers and Thomas Shelley scrap. John Kearney's now back into 6th place as well. Leaders down at Hislop's, and look at the way Nick White has already regrouped and caught the race leader. That gap was up at probably 6 or 7 tenths a couple of corners ago. Off at Island has gone Lucy Tomlinson, and she just manages to stop before the barriers. So Lucy, I forget whether it was Lucy who went off at Island in the previous race or Emma, sorry, Tomlinson, but certainly Lucy this time. She was going up the inside, and that was optimistic is the word I will use, because the car she was overtaking nearly went off as well, and yeah, that was a bit too much speed on the tight, damp inside line. Now, that is the line that Nick White is trying to use at Lodge to take the lead away from Ravi Rami. There is no doubt about it. Nick White in these conditions is running a little bit more quickly than Ravi, but can he find a way through? Rami, an experienced racer these days, knows where to place the car to defend the race lead. And as they flash into Old Hall Corner, it is less than a car length in it. Again, nearly identical lap times, but remember, White lost best part of half a second in sector 1 alone that time, so he gained that time back very rapidly. And needs to now make sure he doesn't do the same again, but Rami is visibly quicker through Cascades, isn't he? Carries more speed in. White perhaps a little circumspect after the moment he had there a lap ago, but it means that Nick then spends the next couple of corners trying to close in. Now let's see if we can figure out where he's regaining the time, because Island is another quick corner, and through that one he seems a bit more committed. It's on the brakes, isn't it, into Shell? He's noticeably later on the brakes. You get the natural concertina going in, but then the gap doesn't really stretch back out all that much on the exit, so it is a net gain through Shell for Nick White. The same is true then into Britons. He's carrying the speed into the chicane a little bit better. Very similar situation here between Thomas Shelley and Ed Akers, who's almost helping Thomas into the chicane there. White, Ravi Rami again just moving to cover that inside line, although White wasn't quite as close this time. Similar sort of distance between Shelley and Akers. James Taylor keeping a watching brief in 5th. Matt Shaw, by the way, is back into 9th place. That is 2nd of the rookies. It was only a couple of laps ago he was 14th and last of the rookies. He is about 11 seconds, though, off class leader Richard Just. The previous lap, Shaw was about 4 tenths slower, but of course he was doing a lot of overtaking. He gained 3 places on the previous lap alone, did Matt Shaw. 2 laps to go probably at the end of this one, so I'm not sure he's going to have time to close in on the leader and make it a hat-trick of race victories. It's one apiece so far for Ramyeed and White, who is going to claim the decider, if you like, in this opening weekend of the season. Ramyeed has the track position advantage. Nick White looks the faster of the two, and again, they are absolutely tied together as far as lap times are concerned. See whether Nick White carries a bit more speed through Cascades this time, certainly a bit later on the brakes, but then misses the apex, and Ramyeed gets a slightly better exit. That was better, though, from White. I don't think he dropped back quite as much. Let's see what the sector times are like. White just did a purple final sector, faster than anybody else. It is a personal best in the first sector, and he was about 100th quicker than the race leader, but that is significantly better than it has been over the last few laps. We now head into the part of the circuit where Nick White seems to have a slight edge through Shell and into Britons. The trouble is, you can't really do a lot of passing around this part of the track. He has to be closer, really, into Island and Shell. Could perhaps then get up the inside into the hairpin. Out of Britons and into Hislops might be his best shout. Just drops back a car length or so. And as they drop down the hill, again, Ramyeed weaves to the inside to cover, realises Nick White isn't close enough to attack, and then drifts back over onto the racing line. No change in the order behind, by the way. Shelley, Akers, Taylor still 3rd, 4th, 5th. What about Matt Shaw? Matt Shaw just did a 54.3. Oh, that is 4.5 seconds quicker than Richard Just. He is about 8 seconds back. That is going to be very close for the rookie class victory. It will all depend, I think, on how quickly Matt Shaw can clear Mark Ellman, who, of course, is still latched onto the tail of Richard Just. He's in clean air for now, but if he's going to take the class victory, he'll have to clear the number 88 car first. So that all going on a bit further back. A battle that may erupt on the final lap. This battle has been pretty much like this the whole way. Shame, really, that we had that safety car interlude, because this would have been I think, a race-long duel between the two of them. Had a change further back, by the way. Ed Akers has slipped behind James Taylor. That's for 4th position. So those 3 cars, Shelley, Taylor and Akers, still nose to tail, but in a slightly different order now. There you can see the green car is Shelley, the white car is Taylor, the orange of Akers is on the grass and trying to go back round the outside. That's fantastic. It might just work. There's contact at Denton's. That's not a place you want to be rubbing panels. And, well, Akers goes back ahead, but robust racing from the pair of them there. Couldn't quite see, but I wonder whether maybe Taylor squeezed Akers at Old Hall, so Akers gave him one back at Denton's. Taylor trying to come back up the inside again at Island Bend. And all of this now allowing Thomas Shelley to pull clear. Go through that damp patch of tarmac at Island Bend, which must be terrifying at the fastest corner on the track. And they accelerate up towards the Britain's chicane again. Purple first sector, by the way, for Nick White. And he is continuing to apply the pressure to Ravi Ramyeed, but just can't get close enough into the right parts of the track, can he? Ravi's not making any mistakes yet. We're on the final lap of the race as well. So Ravi Ramyeed looking good in the rookie class. Shaw is about 4 seconds behind Richard Just, the class leader, and is lapping about 4 seconds a lap quicker, but they've still got Mark Ellman between them in the number 88 car. There is Akers back on the tail of Shelley, so there are so many battles to keep an eye on this final lap. We need about 4 sets of eyes. We'll focus on the race leaders for now, who come out of Druids, under the Paul Warwick Bridge, down to the final braking zone at Lodge, and barring a mistake, I don't think Ravi Ramyeed is going to lose this now. Turns into Lodge corner. Nick White can't quite get close enough into the last turn, and Ravi Ramyeed is going to claim his 2nd race victory of the weekend. It's Nick White who will have the points lead, but Ravi Ramyeed and Nick White are going to put on one heck of a show for us this season, I think, in the Ginetta GT Academy Championship. Now, for 3rd position, Ed Akers clambering all over the back of Thomas Shelley. They come over Dear Leap and will remain again in the same order. Shelley 3rd, Akers 4th, Taylor will be 5th, John Kearney will be 6th, but who will be 7th? Has Matt Shaw been able to catch the Richard Just and Mark Ellman battle? Here they come, and no is the answer. He's not quite going to get to them, is he? Mark Ellman is hunting around behind Richard Just. Another lap, and I think that number 33 car would have got itself back into the rookie class lead, but as it is, it's going to be a first ever victory in the rookie class for Richard Just, who comes over Dear Leap. I think he will just keep Mark Ellman at bay as well. Yes, he does. 7th for Just, 8th for Ellman, a 10th of a second between them at the flag, and Matt Shaw ultimately comes up a 1.5 seconds or so short of reclaiming the rookie class victory. So, great racing from the GT Academy cars. We're well used to seeing that, and they are going to keep us thoroughly entertained all season long. They, like all of the Ginetta series, are going to be full-time supports for British GT this season. So, keep following the British GT events. If you've enjoyed what you've seen today, they'll be next out at Silverstone on the 6th and 7th of May. They've also got their G-Fest, which is a festival of all things Ginetta, on the 2nd to the 4th of June on the Silverstone National and Grand Prix circuits. So a big event. All the Ginetta Championships will be there, and that is going to be taking place in the early summer. So hopefully some nice weather, more pleasant weather than we've been subjected to here today, that's for sure, and they'll all have a round of their championships there too. So there is the number 99 car, Richard Just, who claimed the rookie class victory just by a second or so over the recovering Matt Shaw. Ravi Ramyeed claims the victory, but race-long pressure came onto him from Nick White in 2nd place, Thomas Shelley in 3rd, Ed Akers 4th ahead of James Taylor, then it was John Kearney 6th, Richard Just in 7th claiming the rookie win, 8th for Mark Ellman and Matt Shaw after that collision at Lodge Corner, having to settle for 2nd in class. Then it was Amy Tomlinson in 10th position, Emma Tomlinson was 11th, Phil McCarthy 12th ahead of Lowe, then it was Lucy Tomlinson 14th, and Mackenzie Walker, the one non-finisher, after skating off into the gravel trap at Lodge Corner on the opening lap. So, another action-packed 20 minutes of racing in the Ginetta GT Academy, who, as I said, are just starting what will be an 8-event 2023 calendar, taking in all the very best racetracks in the United Kingdom, from Silverstone to Donington, Snetterton. They'll even have a round at Cadwell Park, which of course is not a British GT event, on the 22nd and 23rd of July. Then Brands Hatch's Grand Prix circuit in September, and it all concludes at Donington Park in the middle of October at the Donington Decider meeting. Will it be Ramyeed and White still fighting for the championship then? There are other drivers who I think have the speed of those two, Ed Akers and Mackenzie Walker in particular. They just need to limit the mistakes, don't they? And they might just be able to make it a 3 or a 4-way fight for the title. There are dropped scores to be taken into account as well. The lowest round of scoring for each driver can be dropped. So in theory, Walker doesn't have to worry too much about his bad Oulton Park as long as he doesn't have another bad round. So as the sun starts to set over Oulton Park, another successful Easter Bank Holiday race meeting comes to a close. Let's take a look at the highlights from our third and final Ginetta GT Academy race of the weekend, where Nick White and Ravi Ramyud went toe-to-toe for the race lead. It was a great start from Ramyud from pole, though. He held the lead into turn 1. Mackenzie Walker was the early mover, coming from the third row of the grid to claim third place into Old Hall Corner for the first time. Sadly, his time at the front of the pack was going to be short-lived. Down through Cascades for the first time. The top two were already starting to distance themselves from those behind, but those gaps would start to come down over the second half of the first lap as the drivers tiptoed on a damp circuit on cold tyres, hoping not to do this. Having got into second place ahead of Nick White, Mackenzie Walker ran out of grip into Lodge Corner, slipped off into the gravel trap, and unfortunately couldn't quite dig himself out. That required the safety car to come out for a couple of laps. On the restart, Ravi Ramyud made a good jump, but Nick White wasted no time in closing him back down, and the two engaged in a ferocious tussle for the race lead. There was contact at Lodge Corner that saw Matt Shaw getting into the side of the 56 car of James Taylor. Shaw spun. Remarkably, he almost came back to win the rookie class. Then a big moment at the fastest corner on the track for Lucy Tomlinson. She just avoided the barriers though and was able to get back on the road. Richard Just was the man who inherited the rookie class lead after Matt Shaw's off and was being chased down towards the end, but it was Ravi Ramyud who withstood the pressure from Nick White to claim his second victory of the weekend here at Oulton Park. So the drivers making their way towards Parc Ferme. We're going to hopefully catch some of the celebrations from the podium, which I'm sure the drivers will enjoy. After a hard weekend's racing, pretty intense day for some of the teams as well, because remember, a lot of the teams who run cars in the GT Academy will also be running cars in juniors and in the GT Championship as well. And some of them involved in British GT too. So for some teams, they've had 4 championships to prepare cars for. Prepare and repair cars in some cases. So the mechanics have earned a good night's sleep tonight. Their work only really just starting. They still have to pack down the awnings and get the cars back in the trucks. The drivers disappear and start the journey home long before the team get the opportunity to do so. And without those teams and the hard-working team members, mechanics and whatnot, drivers wouldn't be able to get out there and enjoy what they have enjoyed doing today. Also, of course, big thanks to the marshals and officials for exactly the same thing, allowing us all to enjoy another Easter bank holiday weekend of fun in the sun sometimes here at Oulton Park, but actually it's been more wet and wild than anything else today. Hasn't dampened the spirits of what's been a big crowd though, and we hope you've all enjoyed watching along from home too. The Ginetta Championships with this restructuring for 2023, and everyone I think was quite interested to see how the championships would fare this year, but I think certainly based on the racing product here today, we are in for a great season in 2023. Thank you very much for joining us here at Oulton Park. We will see you again in a few weeks' time at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit.